Welcome back, map makers, to the third installment of my 5-part fantasy map making series for beginners and the artistically and/or technologically challenged. So, in the first tutorial we learned how to make continents, and in the second tutorial we worked on getting our rivers and mountains in place, and now it is time to get even more detailed and start working with some more land features, such as forests, swamps, plains, cities, things like that. Now, if you watched the part in the second tutorial about how we downloaded brushes like these mountains to use on our map, then you've already got half of this figured out, because included in those brushes, oftentimes, depending on which ones you get, are the little symbols that we can use for our forests and our cities and things like that. So I encourage you to find some that you like and download them, install them in Photoshop in the way that I showed you in the second tutorial, and half the battle is done, because this way it's only a matter of dropping these features where you want them to go on your map. So, super easy. I'm going to start by doing forests on this map here. And as we did with the mountains, we're going to start from the top of the map and work our way down so that we don't get any awkward overlaying or stamping over things we've already put down. Now, an important thing to remember when you're making forests is that you aren't obviously going to put down every single tree that is in that forest. We're more putting a representation of where forests stand, so just remember to think symbolically more than literally when you're drawing these features. Now, forests tend to occur around water, so these are going to be the first areas we look at for our forests are going to go. So first things first, let's get our new layer. We're going to call this trees, swamps, etc. We're going to kind of lump all of these things together here. Okay. New layer, brush is selected at a 100% opacity. And at this point, it's really a matter of preference as far as color. You could do green forests if you want to keep your map in color. If you want to sort of match, or you're probably going to end up with a sepia tone or black and white map, then you can just leave it all the same color. It really depends on your preference. I'm going to try a nice dark green forest here. And I'm going to start this forest around one of my rivers. And just as we did with the mountains, we're going to break up the pattern by using different stamps and by putting in single trees to kind of break up the pattern a little bit. One thing about the brush set that I showed you in the second tutorial is that it provides a lot of variation as far as the forests go, so that it's pretty easy to mix it up. Everything is sort of, too big, uniform size here. Okay. Again, variety is key. Breaking up the patterns here. And it's okay if you overlap a little bit in some areas, because we're on a new layer. It's going to be very easy to erase and to, like so, get rid of the trees that we don't want, and also gives a little bit more variety. So just where they overlap, they're over here, I'm going to come in and erase them. Okay, when you zoom out, as you can see, that looks much better. There's one forest. This So this is super easy. Again, it's just a matter of having those brushes there that is really so much of the battles. When it comes to making swamps, of course, swamps occur around water. They're kind of these flooded areas. So I'm going to find a good place where it would make sense for a swamp to be. And drop in this particular stamp, which in this case is going to stand for swamp. It's kind of got that look to it. Sort of marshland area. You know, there's a lot of water up here, so I'm going to drop in some swamps there. Now is also a good time to go back and make any changes you might want as far as, lakes maybe are concerned, rivers, things like that. And the nice thing is you can always go back and do this. It's not set in stone necessarily. So I'm going to go back to my land layer, get my eraser with my little round brush. And for example, I'm going to put in a lake up here. Put one down here. So you can see this is a very low lying, very moist area of land up there where these swamps are. Thicken this river a little bit up in here, which means I have to come in and erase the trees. But these maps are really easy to change and alter as you go. So as you're writing your story and you find, I really, I should have a river in this area up here, it's really easy to add that in later. Okay, so I've got some swamplands, marshes, I've got some forests dropped in where I want them, and I know that any time I could come back and add them in wherever I need. Don't forget about my little islands over here. And so now is a good time to get started on my cities. I have a good general feel of what the land looks like, where the main features are. And so the thing about cities is you want them to be in places that make sense. For example, if you've got a desert area, it's not going to make sense for your city to be in the middle of that desert unless there's a specific cultural or historical reason for it to be there. Going from my city stamps here, there are some. I'm going to use these. And opening a new layer. Cities layer. Put them in nice bold black. Okay. I'm going to make them rather large because this is more of an island than a continent. And I want to keep a sense of scale. Okay. Now cities tend to occur in places where commerce happens, so rivers, bays, things like that. We're going to get a lot of big cities, so I'm going to put a big city up here. Just stamp it there. That was super easy. Drop one over there. One up here in the mountains. And maybe have some villages over here in the marshlands. These brushes just make it so easy to come in, put them where I want them, change them later if I need to, and don't have to worry about a thing. We have a solitary tower, mysterious tower over here on this island. Wonder what that's all about. Okay. Once you start getting a feel of the cultures and societies that are taking place on your map, you might want to start putting down boundaries. to show the lines between countries. So I'm going to show you an easy way to do that on a new layer. Okay. So, to show boundaries, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and pull up this brushes menu right here, this little tab. And I'm going to choose just a simple line. Relatively small line. Yeah, that looks about right. And what I'm going to do is come down here to where it says spacing. And I'm going to put it pretty high. And as you can see, that changes the line to a dotted line, which generally indicates boundaries and countries. Putting in my boundary lines, letting everybody know where these lands are, where they begin. And do keep in mind that every region's got to have some sort of capital. So I'm going to need a city here in this sort of country. Come back over here, make sure I have my cities layer selected, and come down here to my cities, pick something out, make it match. Okay, there we go. And just make sure, whatever brushes that you are using, make sure that you are checking the artist's requests and preferences as far as you citing their work. You wouldn't want to take credit for anything that isn't yours. Just make sure wherever you post your map, if you show it to people, somewhere in there include links or names or however the artist states they want to be referenced in the description of your map. And don't use brushes that aren't clearly stated are free for use, because you don't want to violate anything with copyright. That's the only thing you're really going to run into with using these brushes. So just be careful about that. Okay, we've got our forests, we've got some cities, some villages, we've got some swamps. Our map is looking pretty good, There are still a few things missing. In the next tutorial, we are going to focus on text, how to add text to your map, how to put in the names of the cities, the countries, and the various features. And we're going to work on a map scale. So figuring out the size of your country, figuring out how long it's going to take your characters to get from this city to that city, how long does it take them to sail from this city to this island, things like that. And these are very important things, especially if you're writing a fantasy novel, to keep in mind. So check back for tutorial number 4, and we'll get into all of that fun stuff. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.